Hi, Claudia Gray here with my willing victim Paul. We are going to be doing my very first playthrough of a game, which is Marrying Mr. Darcy, a card game for everybody who loves Pride and Prejudice or other works by Jane Austen. The game is very simple, but it's very beautifully designed because if you have any interest in this at all, you'll know as you play through it that this is essentially, the book could be one playthrough of the game. You play as one of the heroines in the novel, and you try to win the love of some of the suitors, or not win the love of some of the suitors in the case of Mr. Wickham. But let's go into setup so you can see this a little better for yourself. First we have the suitors. Mr. Wickham, Mr. Collins, Denny, Fitzwilliam, Mr. Bingley, and of course, Mr. Darcy. They are listed in rough order of desirability, I would say, but exactly who you want depends on who you are, who you're going to play in the game. Now, you begin by, you have your different characters, which we'll get to in just a minute. Your player guide, which comes with it, which lets you know all the different moves that you are able to make throughout. In order to win the game, you're going to have to qualify for some suitors. And this card explains exactly how you would be able to do that. Different suitors want different things. Mr. Darcy, to our surprise and possibly to his, is only interested in wit. Whereas Colonel Fitzwilliam is a lot more interested in your dowry. Not only in your dowry, he's a decent dude, but anyway. They have their priorities, let's put it that way. Alright, so to begin, we deal out a few character cards. There are two types of cards in the game. You've got the character cards, which are traits that you're trying to have and enhance, and event cards, which we'll get to in just a minute. But we start by dealing 3 character cards to each player. Alright. Now you take a look at your hand. Okay. In my case, I've got 1 friendliness and 2 reputation cards. Normally you do not announce this to your fellow player, but for the purposes of the game. So, I'm friendly, I've got a good reputation. Which of the suitors cares about those things? Okay, Mr. Collins, you don't win a lot of points for getting Mr. Collins. Colonel Fitzwilliam does, Denny does. Mr. Bingley cares a lot about friendliness. So, maybe I'm interested in going for a set of those. And Paul, meanwhile, is able to keep his hand to himself and choose from the different heroines. So we have before us, and you should be able to see them on this play, Lydia, Mary, Kitty, Jane, Georgiana, Charlotte, Elizabeth, and Caroline Bingley, whom I know from experience Paul will be playing in this game. Different heroines have different people they can go for. They come in with different dowries, as you can see. They're marked on the cards. For instance, Elizabeth only has a dowry of 1, but she has wit of 2, and you can't take that away from her. I'm actually going to play Jane Bennet. Jane is going to be my target in this one, which means you flip over your cards to sort of see what this means. Now, if I can get Mr. Bingley to propose, that's 15 points. That's pretty good. Mr. Darcy, because, hey, Elizabeth might screw up in this game, that's 12 points. Colonel Fitzwilliam and Denny are 10. Mr. Collins is 8. Mr. Wickham, a lowly 5. So, and Caroline Bingley has...
Colonel Fitzwilliam is her bow of choice, would be 14 points. Mr. Darcy, a respectable second at 13 points. Denny, 9 points. Mr. Collins, 7 points. And Mr. Wickham, 5 points.
I'm trying to imagine the wrath of Caroline.
Caroline cannot marry Mr. Bingley because they're brother and sister.
Yes, that's just wrong, y'all. All right, so we have some character cards, and we have event cards. The event cards will determine what happens in the game. Now, if you're only playing with 2 people, they suggest you only play with about half the deck. We'll probably do a little less than half the deck just for the purposes of making this a little bit speedier for you. And the dice. And it's with the dice that we see who goes first. You want to roll first? 4. 3. Caroline will go first. All right, and it's worth noticing that each of these women comes in with a different benefit. Caroline has 3 dowry, the big money, and anytime you pull 1 card, she gets to pull 2. Now, she has to get rid of one of them, but she has her choice of the cards, so Caroline has that in her favor. Jane, no such
Money and
luck.
power.
Money and power, that's what she has on her side. Jane doesn't have that, but she does have beauty of 2, so that can't be taken away. How would you lose these qualities? You're about to find out. So, Paul, begin with the first event card.
I'll take an event card, and in this card, Mary King
All right.
comes to town.
Mary King. Oh no.
Read it.
What does it say? Yes. If Mr. Wickham's already eloped, no change takes place. He is still a suitor. So if he's still a suitor, roll the dice.
1.
1. No marriage takes place. Mr. Wickham remains a suitor. Anyway, you get to draw 1, play 1.
Yes.
Which means he will get to draw 2, play 1, discard 1.
So I get to draw 2 cards because I'm Caroline. And I get to play 1 of these cards. So I'm going to discard 1 card.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to play 2 reputation.
Now, it's important to play because the points that you get down on the board are the ones that count at the end of the game. You have to get them down and keep them down. All right, my turn. I have finished my needlepoint. I draw 1, play 1. So here, I pull a character card. Where's my hand? I had a hand at some point. This is embarrassing. Oh, here it is. Forgive me, everyone. Maybe we'll edit that out, or maybe we won't. Okay. So, friendliness. Friendliness is a help to Jane. Because Mr. Bingley, you have to have either 5 beauty or 5 friendliness. I've got 2 beauty, but it wouldn't hurt to bank on friendliness as well. So I'm going to put down this very rich +3 friendliness card. Yeah, we do need to make room for that. So, there. And those will be our discard piles. All right, your turn.
Again, I get to take an event card. And mine says, your rich aunt settles some money on you. So I'm even more. Play this card with your character for +1 dowry. Also, draw 1, play 1. So she goes on my character for +1 dowry. And
So rich.
because I'm Caroline, I draw 2, play 1. And I will keep this one and discard that.
Still angling for Mr. Darcy.
I
All
need-
right.
I need wit for Mr. for well, no,
All right. I dance with all the officers, like I do. I can either use this as a character card for +2 friendliness, or I can draw 1 and play 1. I'm actually going to take this as +2 friendliness. So we've got that right there.
You read the newest novel. Play this card like a character card for +2 wit, or draw 1, play 1. I want that wit.
Right. Look out, Mr.
I'm
Darcy.
all astonishment.
Whoa! Okay, I've gotten one of the big cards in the thing. The surprise proposal. Mr. Darcy proposes out of the blue. If I accept, I keep this card and move Darcy next to my character. Unless an event card has me elope, we are engaged for the rest of the game, and then marry automatically for a total of 9 points. Now, this might seem like, of course, Mr. Darcy, the game is called Marrying Mr. Darcy, so go ahead. But 9 points is not that many for a suitor. It's going to be difficult to win the game with that. And as we all know, you turn down Darcy the first time he asks. So I am instead going to draw one, play one. Let's see. This card I've got, this is something we should explain, can be cunning. I can use it against somebody to take away one of their wit cards, which, you know, I could do, but in this case I'm not going to do. Or I could play it down, put it down, and play it for +1 cunning. Cunning only counts in terms of who gets to go in what order in Seeking the Suitors. So, I'm not
the person with the highest amount of cunning at the end of the game goes first for the suitors.
Yes. I am not going to worry about that so much, since my number 1 suitor is the one person that Caroline can't marry. So she's not going to be targeting this person. So I don't have to worry too much about going after her, if it should come down that way. So instead, I'm going to play another friendliness card.
And be totally Jane Bennett, not cunning and killing my wit.
Yes, that's a very Jane thing to do, to just think the best of Caroline, whom she is sure is very fond of her. It means kindly to put her on her guard. All right, your go.
Plan a ball, draw 1, play 1. If you are Caroline, draw 2, play 2.
Oh, Caroline.
So does that mean that I can draw 4 and play 2? No. The card says draw 2, play 2. Now, I am Caroline Bingley, and I am going to get rid of her top friendliness card.
You're the worst. But I'll let this note be known. I played this friendliness card even though I had 5 points already of friendliness for Bingley, so that if this happened, I can lose this 1 point. Okay, so you have done this, and now you have to live with yourself. So.
But I play
you have to play
2.
So you play another one.
Yes. And I will play a reputation card.
Alright.
And I have officially qualified for Colonel Fitzwilliam.
This is troubling for me because it's a missing suitor. Mr. Bingley leaves for London. We place this card over his lovely face. He's unavailable until a party card is drawn, when the player who draws the party card may choose to remove it. If he's in London during the proposal stage, he's unavailable to everyone. So I have to hope that either I pull a party card, or that if Paul pulls one and in mercy he has not yet shown, would then remove it for me. It's possible.
This is Caroline Bingley.
This is Caroline Bingley, and she's not a big fan of the Jane match, is she? But I do get to draw one, play one. So I got that going for me, at least. All right, beauty. Now I have more beauty. Okay, your go.
Visit your aunt and uncle. Draw 1, play 1. Now, if Jane had drawn this card, she would get to draw 2, play 2. But
so close.
I get to draw 2, play 1. And I will play more rep. I have to get rid of a card as well. We're going to get rid of all of our friendliness.
Huh. Spinsterhood agrees with you. Really? This is early in the game for this. This card can remove a surprise proposal or elopement, but not prevent them. I decide marriage is not for you. If I keep this card, I won't marry, but I would get +5 points to your old maid score. If you don't get any suitors at the end, you get an old maid card. You can win as the old maid. It's not impossible, but it's hard, and it's early in the game, and I'm not feeling too bad about it, so I'm going to draw 1, play 1 instead. Maybe. So now I have yet more friendliness. I'm so friendly. It's disturbing, really. But then, is that not Jane?
Your family throws a ball to the delight of all. Play this card like a character card for +2 reputation, or draw one, play one. I'll take the rep.
Do you really feel like Caroline had that good a reputation?
Well, you gotta have the front.
Gamble at cards. Okay, this is a kind of card that comes up occasionally. Draw one character card now. You must wager this card, but may wager more if you prefer. All other players may choose to wager any cards from their hand. Each gambler rolls the dice. All right, so I've got to pull a card. I've got to wager this card, and I will wager one more. All right, so now I roll the dice, and we see from there exactly what fate I get. 3. I just keep my cards. All right, Paul, will you be gambling?
Yes, I will be gambling 2 cards. 3.
Also keep the cards. Not the most dramatic finale for that. All right.
Taking the mid card. Bossy Old Lady. You are instructed by Lady Catherine de Bourgh on the most proper technique for packing gowns in trunks. Roll a die.
It's important. 5.
You ignore her advice and suffer no repercussions. Draw 2, play 2.
Ooh.
All right.
Note that Paul is cleaning my clock at this point.
I'm going to play a cunning card.
Ooh. All right. We're getting low on the event cards here. Hope there's a party card. Father's favorite. Draw 2, play 1. Okay, so I draw 2.
Well, I needed to play 2, by the way.
Oh, well,
So I just played extra cunning. Just more cunning.
He's very cunning. All right, I'm going to put down 2 reputation myself. All right, here we go.
Unladylike behavior. Your rival is overheard insulting you behind your back, calling your face too thin and your complexion lacking in brilliancy. Use this card to discard a rival's top friendliness card or a random card from their hand. Well, that friendliness has got to go.
Very well, sir. All right. Belle of the ball. My new gown outshines all of my rivals. I can use this to discard a rival's top beauty card or a random card from their hand. They don't have any beauty. It's just a sad fact there, Caroline.
Money and power.
And so we took all you got to do is have some points in the column. Okay, all right, your go.
You know what Nick said to Nora?
Yes.
All right. Learn to play a new piece on the pianoforte. Draw 1, play 1. So I will draw 2, being Caroline. Oh, and look at this. +2 beauty. Beauty, money, power.
All right. Happy Christmas. Each character draws 1 character card, and if you drew this card, draw 1, play 1. So does that mean I draw 2?
I have to get rid of this card. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Do I draw 2 and play 1? Because everybody draws 1, or do I just draw the 1, do you think?
Each character... Yeah, so you would draw 2.
All right. Oh, I hope that's a party card and Paul takes mercy on me, but I don't think those things are going to happen. Okay. All right. Mr. Bingley, my top point guy, looks like he's not going to be available. So that is not looking good for me. So now, before I play, I have to figure out who else can I possibly qualify for? Not Mr. Denny. I could qualify for Mr. Collins if I play a beauty here, but do I want to? I don't have the dowry or the reputation for Colonel Fitzwilliam. I played too hard for Bingley, and now he's gone. So my fate is not great here. But I'm going to do what I have to do. Fine. There we go. 2 more beauty.
Our final card. You sew yourself a new gown. Play this card like a character card for +2 beauty, or draw 1, play 1. I will draw 2, play 1.
There are so many party cards, and yet not one came up. Alas.
Mm. Well.
All right, it's not looking good for me here, but we still have entered the proposal stage. Normally, there are many more event cards that you would go through. But here we are. So, how am I faring? Well, you have more cunning, so you'll go first during the proposal stage.
I have 4 cunning.
Oh, wow. All right, so Mr. Bingley is not available. He's still in London. I don't know, maybe gadding about with that Georgiana Darcy or whoever. Anyway, he's not with us. So, we only have these 5 options. All right, who all do you qualify for? I'm guessing
I have not qualified for Darcy because I don't have enough wit.
No.
But I have more than enough to qualify for my top point getter, Colonel Fitzwilliam.
You also qualify for Wickham and Mr. Collins, and you have to roll them in order. So if one of them proposes, she may go, okay, do I want the sure thing rather than Colonel Fitzwilliam? I believe it's 1, 2, 3, they don't propose. 4, 5, 6, they do. All right, so start with Mr. Wickham.
He proposes, and I decline.
Okay.
Mr. Collins does not propose.
Stuck up. And now Fitzwilliam
does not. So now I become an old maid.
Yes.
And I have to roll.
You have to roll.
3.
All right, we're going to have to look up exactly what happens with the old maid card at 3. All right, here I go. All right, I do not qualify for Mr. Wickham. I only qualify for Mr. Collins. That's it. All this beauty, all this friendliness, and here we are. All right. But he does propose. And because I must save my family,
She marries Mr. Collins.
Nobody said this game would be easy. All right, so Mr. Collins only gets me 8 points. So we look up our old maid points and get this together. Hold one moment. So here you are, the old maid card. You are old. Nobody wants to marry you.
But I have money and power.
Who needs it? I mean, Emma Woodhouse would say, why bother at that point? See reverse and roll the dice.
I rolled a 3.
You roll a 3. You become the governess to a wealthy family, plus 4.
Yeah.
So you get 4 points plus your hand. Now, he may still win because he has way more points on the board than I do, and Mr. Collins isn't worth that much. I was about to say I don't mean to cast aspersions, but I do. I do mean to cast aspersions on Mr. Collins. Mr. Collins only gets me 8 points. So we count up our hands, what we have down. So I've got 2, 4, 9 plus 8, so I have a final score of 17.
All right, and how much did I get for being an old maid?
You got 4.
Okay, so I have 17 as well.
We tied. There is no winner. Except that Caroline is still rich and powerful, and I'm married to Mr. Collins,
Yeah,
so...
but would she be a governess and rich and powerful?
They'd have to be really rich. They have to be royal.
Yeah.
You know, like, maybe she could be like the mistress to a prince or some sort of foreign potentate. I can see that having some appeal. So, I feel like, even though we tied in points...
I just don't see Anna Chancellor,
Those kids would be in trouble, I think. Anyway, so we tied. That can happen with this. I suppose you could have a roll-off, but we're just going to leave it here with our wildly different fates. As you see, every event card calls on some event that is in the book. The cards' qualities are very true to their characters, and I think this is a beautifully designed game in terms of pulling in everything that you love about Pride and Prejudice and Jane Austen's novels. And if you love this game, you can buy expansion packs either to play Emma or to play Pride and Prejudice and Zombies. So this is out there for you. Marrying Mr. Darcy is available on Amazon. Hope you enjoyed.